The signal in the void. The night sky over Zephyr Prime shimmered with colors no human eye had ever seen. 3 moons hung suspended in the violet atmosphere, casting soft ribbons of light across crystal spires that rose from the planet's surface like frozen music. The Zephyrians had built their cities to sing with the wind, delicate towers that hummed ancient melodies when the breeze passed through their carved channels. Tonight, those towers screamed. Kylix stood at the observation deck of the communications hub, his translucent body flickering with distress, pulses of deep crimson racing beneath his crystalline skin. Through the viewport, he watched his world burn. The hegemony warships hung in orbit like iron vultures. Massive, brutal, utterly without mercy. "How long until the planetary shields fail?" he asked, his voice resonating like wind chimes in a storm. His assistant Mira manipulated the holographic display with trembling hands. Her usually azure glow had faded to a sickly gray. 18 minutes, maybe less. 18 minutes until the raiders descended. 18 minutes until his people, scholars, artists, dreamers, were dragged into slave ships or simply cut down for sport. The Zephyrians had no weapons. They had never needed any. For 3,000 cycles they had lived in peace with their neighbors, sharing knowledge, art, and philosophy across the stars. They studied quantum harmonics and stellar poetry. They built laboratories, not bunkers. And now they were dying. "Send the distress call," Kylix said quietly. "All frequencies. Maximum power." "To whom?" Mirael's voice cracked. "The Confederation abandoned us. The Council won't respond in time. Send it anyway." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, his touch leaving faint light trails in the air. "Someone will hear us. Someone must." Mirael nodded and began encoding the message, her fingers dancing across crystalline interfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. The transmission was simple, desperate, a plea cast into an uncaring void. "This is Zephyr Prime. We are under attack. Our people are being slaughtered. We have no defenses, no military, no means to resist. If anyone can hear this, if anyone in the galaxy still believes in protecting the innocent, please, we are begging you, help us." The message launched from the communications array, riding quantum channels across the star lanes, reaching for distant civilizations that might care enough to respond. But space is vast, and cruel, and filled with silence. 3 seconds after transmission, something impossible happened. Firebase Cerberus, Edge of Terran Space Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen was having a perfectly boring shift, which in military terms meant it was a good shift. She sat in the communications hub of Firebase Cerberus, one of humanity's farthest military outposts, a small fortress of steel and determination floating in the black between stars. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago. The status boards glowed green. Another quiet night at the edge of nowhere. Then the console shrieked. Every screen in the room blazed white. The AI core began cycling through languages it didn't recognize, frequencies it had never encountered, harmonics that shouldn't exist in normal space. "What the hell?" Sarah's hands flew across her station trying to isolate the source. The transmission came through in waves, not radio, not laser, but something that made her equipment scream in confusion. Whatever this was, it wasn't human. It wasn't anything in their first contact protocols. It was alien. "Ma'am." Ensign Park spun in his chair, face pale. "We're receiving a distress signal. Origin, unknown. Distance, I can't even calculate it. The quantum markers say it should be impossible for this to reach us." Sarah's heartbeat quickened. "Play it." The message came through fractured, translated by their AI into something approximating human language. The words were simple. The terror behind them was universal. Under attack. People being slaughtered. No defenses. Begging you, help us. The room fell silent. Sarah stared at the waveform display, watching the alien signal pulse and fade. Somewhere out there, maybe thousands of light years away, maybe in another dimension entirely, someone was dying. Someone was screaming into the void, hoping anyone would listen. and by pure chance, by some cosmic accident, humanity had answered the phone. "Get Admiral Torres," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the ice in her veins. "Right now." 10 minutes later, Command Deck Admiral Ria Torres stood before the holographic display, arms crossed, jaw set. She was a small woman with iron in her spine and fire in her eyes, the kind of officer who'd clawed her way up from enlisted ranks and never forgotten what it meant to bleed for something bigger than yourself. The alien transmission played on repeat. That broken, desperate plea. Her tactical officer, Commander Okoye, cleared his throat. "Admiral, we have no protocol for this. No authorization, no intel on the species, the threat, or even the location with any certainty. Fleet Command is 3 weeks away by FTL comm. If we act alone. And if we don't act?" Torres asked quietly. Silence. She turned to face her crew, men and women who'd signed up to defend Earth, to protect humanity's interests in an expanding universe, not to die for aliens they'd never met, on a world they'd never heard of. 13 ships, she said. That's what we have in range, not a fleet, not a task force, barely a squadron. Against an enemy we know nothing about. She paused, studying the faces around her. But someone out there is begging for help. And we heard them. Admiral Torres straightened. "Spin up the FTL drives, plot a jump to the signal's origin. All ships." "Ma'am." Okoye started. "That's an order, Commander. We're going to war." End of Part 1. Jump into Helterran Defense Fleet, Firebase Cerberus. The hangar bay of the TDS Indomitable erupted into controlled chaos. Klaxons blared. Red combat lighting bathed the corridors in crimson urgency. Marines sprinted to their dropships, boots hammering against metal grating. Engineers swarmed the fighter bays, prepping Raptor-class interceptors for immediate launch. Admiral Torres strode through the organized mayhem like a force of nature, her command staff struggling to keep pace. "Status," she barked. Commander Okoye pulled up his tactical tablet, reading as he walked. All 13 ships responding. The Indomitable, Vanguard, Relentless, and Thunder Bay are capital-class cruisers, full combat loadout. 6 destroyers for screening. 3 fast attack corvettes for surgical strikes. Against an unknown enemy force. "Yes, ma'am." Torres nodded grimly. 13 ships, maybe 5,000 personnel total. If the enemy had an entire fleet waiting on the other side of that jump, this would be the shortest rescue mission in human history. But the alternative was listening to that transmission one more time and doing nothing. That wasn't who humanity was. Not anymore. "How long until jump ready?" she asked. 12 minutes. "Make it 10. Torres stopped at the viewport overlooking the fleet assembly. The 13 vessels of her impromptu task force were already maneuvering into formation. Sleek predators of steel and plasma, their hulls scarred from a dozen smaller conflicts at the frontier. They weren't designed for exploration. They were designed to bite back. Lieutenant Commander Chen appeared at her elbow, slightly breathless. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the signal. The quantum distortion that allowed it to reach us, it's collapsing. If we don't jump in the next 15 minutes, we'll lose the coordinates entirely." "Then we jump in 10, Torres said simply. Chen hesitated. "Ma'am, there's something else." The AI managed to decode more of the transmission. There are children in that message. You can hear them in the background, crying. The Admiral's jaw tightened. She'd fought pirates in the asteroid belts. She'd stared down corporate mercenaries trying to claim mining rights through violence. But this was different. This was a species humanity had never met, being slaughtered by an enemy they knew nothing about. And somewhere in that carnage, children were crying. "All hands battle stations," Torres announced over the fleet-wide channel, her voice carrying the weight of command into every ship, every compartment, every soul preparing to leap into the unknown. "This is Admiral Torres. In approximately 8 minutes, we will execute an emergency FTL jump to an unknown star system in response to a distress call. We don't know what we're jumping into. We don't know if we'll be outnumbered, outgunned, or both." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But I know this. Somewhere out there, innocent people are dying. They sent a message asking for help. That message reached us. Maybe by accident. Maybe by fate. I don't care which." Her voice hardened to steel. "Humanity has spent 200 years learning to survive among the stars. We've been tested. We've been bloodied. We've learned that the universe doesn't care about weakness, only strength, only resolve, only the willingness to stand. Today we show the galaxy what that means. Today we don't fight for Earth, we don't fight for territory or resources or glory. We fight because someone called for help and we answered. All ships prepare for combat jump. Torres out. The channel clicked silent. Around the fleet, 5,000 human beings checked their weapons, said their prayers, and prepared to go to war for people they'd never met. TS Indomitable, bridge. The countdown timer blazed red, 01:03:47. Torres settled into her command chair, fingers drumming once against the armrest, her only tell of tension. Navigation. Confirm jump coordinates locked, she ordered. Confirmed, Admiral. Targeting quantum signature from the alien transmission. Confidence level. 68%, 68%. In FTL navigation terms, that was barely better than a coin flip. Weapons status. All railgun batteries charged. Missile tubes loaded with mixed ordnance. Kinetic penetrators and high-yield plasma warheads. Point defense grids active. We're ready to dance, ma'am. Shields to maximum. Fighter wings on standby for immediate launch. Torres leaned forward. Tactical, I want target analysis the instant we drop out of FTL. I don't care if it's a pebble or a dreadnought. I want to know what we're shooting at. Aye, Admiral. The timer ticked down. 00:10. Around the bridge, officers gripped their stations. The AI hummed with anticipation, running combat scenarios at impossible speeds. Outside, the 13 ships of humanity's first interstellar rescue mission, aligned like a spear aimed at the heart of the unknown. 030 Torres thought about her daughter back on Earth, 22 years old, engineering student. She'd never understand why her mother did this, jumped into hell for strangers, risked everything for a signal in the dark. Maybe she'd never have to. Maybe that was the point. 10. All ships reporting ready, Okoye announced quietly. Torres took a breath. Let it out slow. Execute jump. The void between reality tore open like a wound. The FTL drives screamed, ripping holes in space-time itself, pulling the 13 human vessels through dimensions that weren't meant to be traveled. For a fraction of a second that felt like eternity, they existed nowhere, suspended in the quantum foam between stars, between moments, between what was and what might be. Then the universe snapped back. Zephyr Prime. Orbit. The hegemony raiders were having a profitable evening. Their warships hung in stable orbit, launching assault shuttles toward the crystalline cities below. The Zephyrians had stopped resisting, not that they'd put up much of a fight to begin with. The slavers would fill their holds with the healthy ones, strip the planet of anything valuable and be gone within a cycle. Easy prey. As it should be, Commander Thrakzul of the Raider flagship Blood Talon slouched in his command throne, picking at his fangs with a sharpened claw. The Zephyrians had good trade goods. Their crystal technology fetched high prices on the black market, but their complete pacifism made them boring. No sport. No challenge. Just every sensor screen on his bridge exploded with warnings. Contact, his tactical officer shrieked. Multiple FTL signatures, 13 vessels dropping in system. Bearing, reality cracked, and 13 warships tore into normal space like avenging angels. They appeared 300,000 kilometers above Zephyr Prime, weapons hot, shields blazing, their hulls still glowing with the after effects of the jump. The human vessels spread into combat formation with mechanical precision, targeting sensors already painting every hegemony ship in the battle space. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Torres smiled like a wolf. Tactical. Count enemy vessels. 23 Raider-class ships, Admiral. Various configurations. They're not military grade. These are pirates, slavers. Torres's smile vanished, replaced by something colder. Open a channel. All frequencies, static crackled. Then her voice, calm, clear, absolute, rang across every communication frequency in the system. Attention unidentified vessels. This is Admiral Ria Torres of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are engaged in an act of violence against a civilian population. You will cease all hostile operations immediately, withdraw your forces and surrender for tribunal, or we will remove you by force. She paused, letting that sink in. You have 60 seconds to comply. Choose wisely. Hegemony flagship Blood Talon Thrakzul stared at his view screen in disbelief. Who were these newcomers? Some new species? Playing hero? In his hunting ground? He bared his fangs. 13 ships against his 23. The fools had jumped to their own execution. Target the lead vessel, he snarled. Show these primitives what happens when they interfere with the hegemony. His weapons officer hesitated. Commander, their energy signatures. I've never seen anything like fire. The Blood Talon's main plasma cannon lit up the void, hurling a bolt of superheated death toward the human flagship. The shot never landed. The Indomitable's point defense. Grid opened up. A wall of hypersonic tungsten, rounds and laser fire that shredded the plasma, bolt into harmless particles, before it crossed half the distance. On the human bridge, Torres didn't even blink. They've made their choice, she said quietly. All ships weapons free. Show them why humanity doesn't lose. And the Terran Defense Fleet went to war.